Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. We have short memories here in the United States. Lots of reality TV, Instagram shenanigans, and Black Lives Matter rallies to distract the dumpster fire that is everything Joe Biden touches. We're coming up on 20 years since the day that forever changed the world. Newsmax is taking a long look back at that day and the 2 decades that followed. Bleeding heart liberals want you to forget about the 4 commercial airplanes filled with innocent Americans that were hijacked by Islamic radicals, turned into missiles, and used to kill thousands more Americans on the ground and in the buildings. The President of the United States says it all in time. The biggest threat to America right now is certainly not radical Islam.
The most lethal terrorist threat to our homeland in recent years is domestic terrorism rooted in white supremacy. We have to stand united against this violence because it just spills over to all communities. And my administration is carrying out the country's first ever comprehensive effort to tackle the threat of domestic terrorism, from reducing online radicalization to disrupting networks that inspire violence and providing resources to communities to build up some resilience.
We said we'd never forget. Joe Biden's been in Congress for half a century. He saw what happened 20 years ago. We told the families of 3,000 people who died on 9/11 that we'd never forget. Our president has forgotten. Our military leaders have forgotten. The FBI has forgotten. The CIA has forgotten. They can't get their heads around the idea that we don't live in a bubble. What happens in Vegas doesn't actually stay in Vegas. We should know better. What happens in Afghanistan doesn't stay in Afghanistan. Today, the Taliban raised their flag over government buildings in a place that's considered rugged and inaccessible even by Afghanistan standards. It's called Panjshir Valley. It's been a stronghold for Afghan resistance against the Taliban for decades. It was the last pocket of fighters trying to fend off the Taliban until today. Like millions of Americans right now, you're saying to yourself, why do a bunch of tribesmen in a rural valley on the other side of the planet matter to us at all? I'll tell you why it matters. Everything matters, especially Afghanistan. Nobody's talking about this today. In fact, this is one of the only headlines I could even find anywhere on the internet. Reports from an Indian news outlet saying Afghan resistance leader Ahmad Massoud, has fled to Turkey. Ahmad Massoud, his father, also named Ahmad Massoud, was a legendary Afghan freedom fighter and a key American ally who helped push the Soviets out of Afghanistan in the 1980s. The elder Massoud was widely considered the best hope for peace and democracy in the war-torn country. He led the fight against al-Qaeda and the Taliban through the 1990s. One author dubbed him as the Afghan Napoleon, widely considered one of the greatest guerrilla fighters the world has ever seen. Massoud traveled to Brussels, Belgium on April of 2001. Now pay attention to that date right there, April 2001. He warned the world about what was brewing in Afghanistan. He spoke to the European Parliament and told them he was losing the war against radical Islamic forces in his country. In that speech, he said if something happened to him, if he were killed or captured, watch out, something bad was going to happen. Ahmad Shah Massoud was killed just 5 months later when a suicide bomber posing as a journalist hid explosives inside a video camera and blew himself up. That bomber, believed to have direct ties to Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, that was September 9th, 2001. Say it again, September 9th, 2001. He was killed. What happened just 2 days later?
It's 8:52 here in New York. I'm Bryant Gumbel. We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Jim, just a few moments ago, something believed to be a plane crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. I just saw flames inside. You can see the smoke coming out of the tower.
The CIA missed it. The FBI missed it. The White House missed it. Massoud knew, though. What happens in Afghanistan doesn't stay in Afghanistan, just like he predicted. The worst attack on American soil the world has ever seen took place 2 days after the Afghan resistance leader was assassinated. Should we take a look at the headline again? Today, Massoud's son. Listen to this. The last hope of Taliban resistance in Afghanistan is believed to have fled the country as radical Islamic terrorists closed in on him and his small freedom fighter militia. The Taliban announced they pushed out the younger Massoud on their Twitter account earlier today. Oh, by the way, yes, the Taliban spokesman, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, is free to post on Twitter at will. A guy who's taken credit for killing countless Americans and Afghans has more than 3,000 followers, 300,000 followers, that is, on Twitter. He uses it as a mouthpiece for his propaganda, his Islamic terrorist organization. President Trump, persona non grata on social media. Are you kidding me? Trump, no. Taliban propagandists, yes. Jack Dorsey, you should be brought up on charges. So what's the leader of the free world doing today as freedom officially dies in Afghanistan? What is he doing while radical Islamic terrorists officially squash the democracy we've been building for 20 years since 9/11? Well, he's taking it easy at home in Delaware. A few selfies with a very friendly crowd of union workers, maybe a backyard barbecue, a few beers in the afternoon. Sounds great, Joe. Brand new poll numbers out today, though, on all Americans, not just Republicans or Democrats. They're having a problem. This is everyone, folks. 40% of all Americans place blame for what's happening right now in Afghanistan squarely on one man, President Biden. Right now, there's Americans essentially being held as hostages in an airport in the city of Mazar Sharif. Private plane charters on the tarmac waiting on what's being called clearance from the Taliban to take off. We have to ask the Taliban for clearance to take off with Americans on it. It's unbelievable what's going on. Oh, my goodness. The Department of State, they never told the Taliban that they allowed this on this flight. We're actually negotiating with the Taliban, and the State Department says they don't have any personnel on the ground, so they have no way to confirm basic details of the charter flights. The State Department has no idea what's going on, but a doctor-turned congressman from Texas has a team of his own people on the ground there, and he's making it happen. Republican Ronnie Jackson confirming today that he helped get these Americans out and is still working on 3 others. Our government is failing where real Americans pick up the slack for Uncle Sam. So while the world burns and Joe Biden turns his back on the American people time after time after time, there's still one bold voice out there speaking the truth, and it's calling like it is.
You have people going all over the world and being dropped all over the world right now, and nobody knows who the hell they are, Cheryl. These were people that rushed into the planes, and they were so interested in trying to make it sound like, oh, they're doing a good job. These people, many of these people are going to be terrorists.
That's Trump speaking exclusively to a local news outlet over the weekend. There's Americans who can't get out while thousands of people we don't even know were stuffed into planes and dropped into the middle of America. American cities all over the place, folks. The majority of them are likely good people who just want freedom. But how do we know there's not some Taliban sympathizers in there or al-Qaeda embeds being chauffeured into major American cities, your neighborhoods, from the same corner of the world that gave birth to the 9/11 attackers? We don't know. What happens in Afghanistan doesn't always stay in Afghanistan. We know that, though. Those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.